Hi everyone, welcome to my video on Adam and Eve from a metaphysical perspective. I haven't heard anyone talk about this in regards to manifestation and non-duality, and it really interested me, so I thought I would do a video on it. So this video is called Adam and Eve, the fall into forgetting and the journey back to oneness, the metaphysical meaning of the first story ever told. So in the beginning, there was no man, no woman, no earth, no stars. There was only being, the infinite formless essence that we call God, source energy, higher power, infinite intelligence, or simply I am. Now this being was all that existed, whole, pure, and still. It had no form, it had no separation, no other. It was one with itself in perfect unity. But within the heart of this stillness, a question stirred. What am I? And from this question, creation was born. Not to find something new, but to experience what already is from every single angle in every possible way, through contrast, through form, through the illusion of time. The story of Adam and Eve is not about two humans in a garden. It's a metaphor, a story of consciousness entering the dream of form. It's a story about you, your soul's journey through forgetfulness and back into remembrance. Adam, the birth of awareness. Adam is not a man. Adam is the first movement of awareness, the spark of I am arising from the stillness of being. He symbolizes the masculine principle, not male in gender, but in energy, awareness, focus, witnessing. Adam is the first seer, the experiencer who names reality but has not yet questioned his own nature. And Adam exists in Eden, the symbolic realm of unity and harmony, where there is no duality, no judgment, no fear. Everything just simply is. But something is missing, and this is where Eve comes in. So Eve is the mirror of perception. And Eve she comes from Adam's rib, inverted commas, his own inner essence. Eve emerges. And this doesn't mean women come from man, but that duality is born from unity. Eve represents the feminine principle, again, not in gender, but in energy, perception, feeling, intuition, relational awareness. And where Adam is the awareness of being, Eve is the awareness of self in relation to other. She is the birth of reflection, the mirror through which consciousness begins to see itself. Together, Adam and Eve symbolize the two aspects of one being, observer and observed, subject and object, masculine and feminine. And they live in the garden because they still remember who they are, expressions of the infinite, undivided from the source. But then comes the turning point in the story, the tree of knowledge, the birth of duality. At the centre of the garden are two trees, the tree of life, symbolising the remembrance of oneness and eternal being, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, symbolising duality, judgment, and the illusion of separation. The command not to eat from the second tree is not a rule from a God that punishes, it's a metaphor. To eat from this tree is to identify with duality, to believe in the concepts of right and wrong, self and other, mine and yours, good and bad. It's to descend from being into becoming, to fall into the illusion that you are a separate self. The serpent, evolution itself. The serpent has long been misunderstood. The serpent is not the enemy of God. The serpent is the energy of transformation, the force of evolution. The serpent represents life force, the impulse to grow, to expand, to experience contrast. And when the serpent invites Eve to eat, it's the invitation to wake up, to remember through forgetting, to begin the soul's journey into limitation so that it might return to freedom through experience. Eve eats the fruit and then Adam follows. They don't commit sin, they choose experience. They descend into time, into form, into identification with the body. This is what's called the fall, but it's not a punishment. It's a descent into the dream of separation so that awakening can occur, so remembering can occur. The fall the fall, the illusion of separation. After eating the fruit, Adam and Eve suddenly feel naked. And why is that? Because now they identify with the body, the form, the external. They feel shame, not because it does something wrong, but because they've forgotten who they are. They try to cover themselves up. They hide from God, their own inner being, because now they feel separate from it. They are cast out of Eden, but Eden was never a place. It was a state of consciousness. The gate to Eden is not locked. It's simply invisible to those who believe they are separate. But even in this forgetting, God, true self, higher power, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, doesn't abandon them. Instead, it walks with them through time, through pain, through experience, through life after life, because they are one with Source, just like you are, just like I am, never separate, until they awaken to what they have always been. And the deeper meaning of this story is not about punishment or sin. It's about awakening. You are Adam and you are Eve. You are the one consciousness dreaming itself into form. You are the one who forgot. You chose to forget so you could remember. You are the one who descended so you could rise, who believed in lack so you could rediscover abundance. The original sin is not disobedience. It is simply the belief that you are separate from God. But the mystery to this is, even in the dream, even in the forgetting, you are still the one. And now you are remembering who you really are and why you're here. The story of Adam and Eve is not finished. It's being lived through you until the day that you eat not from the tree of duality, separation, but from the fruit of your own divine nature. So in the manifestation community, you will hear about Christ consciousness, right? That's referred to in the Bible as Jesus. And Jesus is your I am awareness of being, as in your awareness of being all things, source. So where does Jesus come into this? And what does Jesus have to do with manifestation? Now, Jesus, in the metaphysical sense, doesn't arrive to fix the Adam and Eve story, but to awaken humanity from the dream that it chose to enter. Jesus represents the realization of Christ consciousness, the full remembrance of our divine nature within the human experience. And here's how it connects. Adam and Eve represent the soul's descent into duality, into form, contrast, forgetting. They are archetypes of awareness and perception, choosing to explore separation to eventually remember unity through experience. The fall wasn't punishment, it was a chosen descent, it was choice into limitation so the infinite could know itself from a new perspective. And Jesus, Yeshua, represents the ascent, the return to Eden, not as naive oneness, but as embodied awakened oneness. Christ consciousness is the way home. Jesus didn't come to be worshipped. He didn't teach religion. He came to mirror what is possible when a human remembers I and the Father are one. He walked through the dream, but knew he was not of it. That's why he said, you will do even greater things than I have done, and the kingdom of God is within you. Christ is not a man, it is a state of being. Christ consciousness is the full embodiment of I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. Not because of ego, but because being itself is the eternal way. So thank you for listening to this video. The sequel to this video, part 2, is uploaded and is called The Return to Eden, The Christ Awakens in You. And it just explores in more detail how Jesus relates to manifestation and how Jesus is linked to Adam and Eve.